What is up, everybody? It is 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's actually, it's pretty early for me. I don't know about you guys. I'm a cup of coffee in, and I'm just now starting to wake up. I think it's pretty early for another one of us here. Even though, so we appreciate you showing up, Jake Sirkus, at 6 a.m. Maybe it's worth a reconsideration of the time of this podcast, because like as we were starting this, I was like, hey, is there a whole Pacific audience that we might be missing? That's okay.
Right.
They can rewatch on Twitter if they want to. Welcome everybody to the NFL Roundtable, a betting podcast here with you every Tuesday during the NFL season. And like I said, leading up to this podcast, we hope it's something different than what you hear every week in the NFL podcast spectrum, because we're going to have different personalities, rotating guests every time on this podcast. We might get a fourth guy or gal coming into the podcast today. We'll wait and see. We'll just bring them in if they end up showing up. But this is week one. We have a great panel here today. It's the three of us this morning sipping coffee. So let's get right to who is on the show today. Starting with myself. My name is Chris Farley, at Farley Bets on X. Been doing this for a little while. Hopefully you follow my other podcast, Laying the Points with Farley Bets. You know some of the things that I've done in the betting industry, but this isn't about me. This is about NFL Week 1, because we are 2 days away from the opening game of the NFL season. I can't believe it, boys. And without further ado, the guys on the podcast today. We have Patrick Gates in the upper right-hand corner. I was way off with that. Where am I going here? Upper right-hand corner.
You got it. Yeah, there it is.
It's
still early.
Odds Breakers for a long time. Patrick Gage, you do the Expected Bets podcast, very popular NHL podcast. That's a fantastic listen. Welcome to the NFL Roundtable, my man. You're excited for the season?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pumped. It's crazy to think that the NFL is only 2 days away here, right? Like Labor Day just throws everything off. You're like, oh, I still got 3 days to kind of figure out the week. And no, because it's Thursday and then Friday, and college football is completely back now. So you're really into the thick of things, it feels like.
Yeah, and if you're me, you're suffering through tennis, UFC. The thing about betting tennis for me is you think, these players individually, usually what I bet, they have all this momentum. They're looking great out there on the court. The next game, they're like, I'm tired. I'm taking this match off. I mean, it's the one-on-one sports are so unpredictable. Give me team sports. Give me the culture, the coaching angles of the NFL any day. I'm sick of these summer sports. On the upper left side of your screen is Mr. Jake Sirkus, contributor over there at Bleacher Report. He's been on Laying the Points now a few times and a very sharp NFL bettor. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you, Chris. And as Patrick was saying, it's funny because, we wait all summer for this and it's so exciting. And then August hits around, college football starts, and then now it's game week. And I'm like, well, shit, I got to now look all day at lines and look how these lines are moving, because it's, we got games Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So a lot of moving parts here, but I'm happy to be here, talk some ball.
Yes, man. Me too. Likewise. And I have some sun shining on me this morning. There's going to be some snafus early. Like I said, maybe we'll have this podcast at noon Eastern time in the future. Maybe that's better for everybody in the podcast world. We'll put the word out there, see what you guys think. But we are so happy to be with you here on a Tuesday morning to go over all these NFL games. And let's just get right into it, boys. We're going to go through every single game starting on Thursday. Throughout the show, these two guys, along with myself, are going to give our best bets for this week, and also our dog of the week, our barking dog, if you will. I would say, guys, week one, let's just start with this. Week one, there's a lot of unknown, right? You hear if you're scrolling through Twitter, all you see are accounts with the boldest, most confident takes on exactly what's going to happen this NFL season. And I kind of love to see that, because as soon as kickoff happens, there's something like zany that happens in the first quarter, maybe even the first few plays, and it can completely flip your notion of who these teams are. Jake, let me go back to you really quickly. We didn't prepare for this, but you guys are pros. You could talk about this. You've done this for a long time. How does one approach the NFL at the very start of the season, Jake? Do you have a lot of exposure? I know you have some great early season bets already in your pocket. We talked about that on a previous episode of Laying the Points. But how do you approach week one specifically?
Yeah, week one is avoiding anything that's unknown. I would say that's the first rule. Some teams have some injuries that they're dealing through, like the Dolphins. We'll talk about them with their 2 star pass rushers that are probably out, I believe, in this game. But there's a lot of unknown, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new turnover. We see that a lot in college. So I would say lower the exposure in week 1 and more so lean on the reads on teams that you have from the summer. And that's kind of what I've done for week 1. And then starting in week 2 is good because then you get the overreaction spots. But in week 1, for sure, what I do is mostly lean on my summer reads and see if there's lines that I think by week 10 or 11 are going to look pretty funny. Then we're looking back on week 1 and say, oh, the Titans are really dogs against, the Bears, and kind of take advantage of teams that are lower in the market, just because of people aren't paying attention to them and we haven't seen them play yet, or new coaches, new players. Mostly I just focus on where I have these teams rated preseason, going into the season, and we don't have any data points to go off of. So it's kind of key to rely on what you believe based on the work that you've done over the summer.
Yeah, and it's a good hedging opportunity too in week 1 sometimes, right? I mean, some of these lines put out as early as April or May on DraftKings and some of those local books, and some pretty crazy lines in those early weeks too. I know the Cardinals. I don't know if the Cardinals were 7.5 at one point. I know they were 7. They were 7 up until a few weeks ago. Now they're down to 6. We're seeing some live movement, some adjustment leading up into the season, but in these last few weeks, you don't see as much movement, right? Because there's a level of uncertainty for all of us as we're heading into week 1. Patrick, anything to add to that as you approach the week 1 slate, just from a professional betting perspective? What is your methodology?
Yeah, kind of going off what Jake said, it's just kind of limiting exposure. I mean, the amount of rookie quarterbacks we have too playing week 1 is certainly interesting here. Obviously, the coaching changes are another fact that you try to factor in. Some have no head coaching experience. Others kind of just have that defensive, offensive coordinator roles. So it's all just about limiting exposure. I think Jake hit the nail on the head here. It's just really trying to find your spots week 1 and not go crazy. And even what you said too, you already see the 50-unit whales flying out on Twitter already. So in week 1, so there's no whales here for, at least for me, in week 1. Let's put it that way.
And those 50-unit whale bets might be right, might be wrong, but I would highly encourage our audience to not put 50 units on whatever you're doing here in week 1. All right, well, let's get started with the week 1 slate. Before we do that, I just want to mention one last thing. This will be in podcast version 2. You have to give me a little more time today, folks, because I'm working from my wife's computer. Of course, week 1, I had to leave my laptop at my father-in-law's house this weekend. We're Labor Day weekend celebration. There might have been some libations involved, maybe a gummy here and there, maybe a fire on the beach. Who knows, guys? But I left my podcast at the father-in-law's house. So my production, or post-production, if you will, is a little clumsy, but we're going to get the podcast out today at some point, and this will be a podcast version every single week. Again, you can follow me at Farley Bets, and you have to follow these 2 guys, even though they don't have their tags up here, these humble, studly men. Patrick is at Gator Betting. Jake Sirkus is at Jake Sirkus on X. All right, let's get started with week 1 here, guys, because we have a banger of a game right from the very start. We got the Baltimore Ravens visiting the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. Of course, the 2-time in a row now Super Bowl champions heading back home. Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs are always ready for these big games. Should be a raucous environment there at Arrowhead. But then, of course, you have the Baltimore Ravens, who made some improvements on the offseason. I think you could also argue that, of course, they lost a few very key pieces to their team on both sides of the ball. Patrick, I'm going to shoot it back to you. Kansas City is a 3-point favorite here. As far as totals, if you guys want to bring up totals throughout this show, that's up to you. I'll just be introducing the spread. But what do you see on Kansas City? Mostly at -3. You can get some plus 100, even money out there. KC -3 pretty much across the board. Patrick, your thoughts?
Yeah, it opened at 2.5, I think, and then it's come shot to 3 now. Again, this is kind of a game I'm going to stay away from too. Obviously, first game of the season, everyone wants to bet it and kind of overexpose themselves early. But I don't have a play in this game personally here. I feel like the Ravens are going to be a popular dog of the week, as you said too. I'm sure the public's going to kind of be on them +3. Little revenge spot for them as well, right? After getting bounced by Kansas City last year. in the AFC championship, where I think were they favored in that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the improvements that the Ravens have made, especially on offense here. But again, it's that age-old saying of you're not going to get rich betting against Patrick Mahomes, especially in week 1 here. Even the Chiefs made some improvements the offseason. I think Rashee Rice is going to play in this game too, which is kind of crazy as well, given the offseason. So, yeah, for me, this is a stay away spot. If I had to lean on it, I would take the 3. I would lay the 3 points with the Chiefs here. But again, this game's not going to be on my card by any means.
You like it. Yeah. This is, I mean, it's going to be a showdown. Sure.
Yep.
Right. You have the Ravens, of course, another revenge game for the Ravens after losing again to the Chiefs in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's like countless revenge games, it seems like, at this point for Baltimore heading into this one. And I just want to say, before I go to you, Jake, breaking news on the NFL Roundtable podcast right away here. We are going to have Matt Rutledge. That's at ER Surgery _ on X. You might have seen him on Book It with Trent before. He will be on the show here eventually. So we will have a four-man attack here on week 1 in the NFL. Jake, let's go to you. Kansas City, Baltimore, just awesome opening game for the NFL season. What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, I kind of see a lot of the same stuff as Patrick. It's a pass for me at 3. If it keeps back down to 2.5, if Baltimore takes some money at 3, I could see myself getting involved at 2.5, 3.5 probably. I kind of lean just either side of the hook. Just if there's something to take. I mean, I think there's more value if the Chiefs get back to 2.5. I have certainly on my doubts about this Baltimore team. I had some doubts about Baltimore last year, and then they were just the best team in the league in the regular season. But this year, they'll take some steps back. They lose their golden boy Mike McDonald, the DC. They lose 3,000 starts on the offensive line. I think that can be probably a bottom 10 unit. So certainly some questions in the back end. I think the Chiefs will take advantage a lot. So I do lean them not at 3. It's a pass there though. So I like if it does get under 3, I could see myself getting involved on a Thursday night. I think the Chiefs have a lot of advantages in this game. And again, it's one of those spots where could see Baltimore taking some steps back and it being week 10. And if they play it again, this line might be 5.5, 6. So if you are down on Baltimore, you could be able to convince yourself and convince myself to lay the points in Kansas City. This one, not. I think there's better spots out there.
Yeah, I agree with that notion now that I think we could see a bigger line if this was later in the season. I'm going to be a little more bullish on this one, and this, by no means to our audience who's watching and anyone who's listening via podcast afterwards. Listen, I don't want this to be an impression of what Farley Bets is doing week 1. I'm not going to have a ton of exposure. I know this is the first game we're talking about. But I'm going to take a shot here on Kansas City. Even at -3, you can get even money out there, which, usually 3 is the most prominent key number in the NFL right there with 6. So I realize you usually want to avoid a 3 or get under the 3 if you like the favorite, right? But I do see some advantages, some clear advantages here for Kansas City. I mean, first of all, this is a team who's 9-2 under Andy Reid in week 1 in their opener. By the way, hard to believe that Andy Reid has been there for 11 years with the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. Like that, he is beyond an institution. But 11 years just seems like a long time for me. 7-4 against the spread in week 1 is Andy Reid and the Chiefs. And, it is in Kansas City. And to your point, Jake, and I believe you mentioned this too, Patrick, no Mike McDonald, I think, is a pretty big difference, right? That he's the kind of guy, a defensive coordinator who other defensive coaches have been copying for a long time. Now he's up there with Seattle. I think Seattle is going to benefit from him. But you did lose Patrick Queen. They have one of maybe the best defensive player on both teams is Kyle Hamilton. I mean, that guy is a very good player for the Baltimore Ravens. But to think that he's going to make all the difference in this game at Kansas City, I like the Xavier Worthy X factor, if you will, out there. I mean, that guy, right, 4.21, 40-yard dash. I mean, that guy is going to be light speed. We've seen what Patrick Mahomes can do with a guy that fast and that much of a game breaker. And at home, I just think right now, a lot of buy signs that this is an even stronger team in the Kansas City Chiefs coming back with a healthy Chris Jones, too, on that defensive line, whereas the Baltimore Ravens just seem a little bit more in flux. Derrick Henry, we'll see. I don't know how much he's going to actually add to their running game element. They lost a few guys on their offensive line. I mean, Morgan Moses, like key guys that they've had for a long time. And I think the Kansas City defense can get after it in this one. So I will take the Kansas City Chiefs -3. I'm going to write about that at PicksWise this week, so you can check that out as well. And let's move on to the next game because, guys, it's not good enough that we just have a Thursday game before the Sunday slate. What, are you kidding me? The NFL knows how to do it, right? They know how to get the most out of their week 1 games. And we have a Friday game in Brazil, which certainly adds an element of mystery or intrigue to this week 1 game. Green Bay Packers are visiting Philly. No, they're visiting Brazil, but I believe it's a home game for the Eagles, or at least it counts as such. -2 or 2.5 or -3 on the Eagles in this one. Eagles slightly favored. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but this is a Green Bay team who I think got better. I think could surprise a lot of teams this year again. Let's go right back to you, Jake. What do you got on the Packers and the Eagles in Brazil on Friday night?
Yeah, I think it's funny. The NFL thinks they're doing a really good thing, and maybe it does end up just going really well, but I feel like this is a little bit of a waste of these two teams. I think this is one of the more marquee matchups in the NFC this year, and it's on a streaming service in Brazil. So we'll see. I'm not entirely excited. I obviously will watch it. Like I obviously will watch it. I have bet on this game that I'll get to, but I think that it's a little bit of a waste of these two teams. Would much rather see Chris Collinsworth, or I think actually it will be Collinsworth because it is an NBC, so maybe we do end up seeing Collinsworth. But
is it a Peacock game? Is that what you're saying? Is it Peacock?
Yeah, so I'm assuming it'll be Tirico and Collinsworth. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I didn't even see what the Peacock. That's interesting. Hey, listen, I love Peacock as an app. They got the old WWE on there. It's not too shabby, guys. But yeah, Peacock on a Friday in Brazil. That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot of factors going on.
There was a lot of backlash for the Chiefs Raiders game on Christmas only being on Peacock. There was a lot of, and then the playoff game that was on Peacock. So there was a lot. But I'll get into my bet on this game. I played the Packers a little bit ago. Was surprised to see some threes pop up yesterday. I think they're all gone. No, it is 3.
DK still got a 3.
DK and FanDuel both have a pretty juiced 3 for Green Bay, but I'm fine with my position on Green Bay at 2.5. If it kind of gets a little out of hand, I might buy it again. I think there's so much to like about this Packers team heading into the season. I've seen super split opinions on their offensive line and secondary, but I'm pretty bullish on them because I think they have a lot of young players who can play a lot of different and play in a lot of different places on both the line and the secondary. I'm still on this fade Eagles train that I was on for the better part of 3 months last year. I don't think a few rookies and Vic Fangio is just going to wave a magic wand and bring this defense out of the gutter that they were in for the last half of the season a year ago. I'm getting the better head coach, the quarterback, the defense on a neutral site as a dog. I think the Packers have a lot more continuity. I think they'll travel better. I'll take the points here.
Love it. Okay, over to you, Patrick. What do you say? Brazil. We just went over kind of all the things that make this a muddled contest. But do you have any strong leans or thoughts on the Packers-Eagles?
Yeah, it's an interesting line set at 3 for the Eagles, right? Because, these teams kind of finished the season on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, it felt like. Like the Packers obviously got that great win over the Cowboys in the first round. And the Eagles just kind of collapsed to the Bucs in the playoffs as well. So these teams went complete opposite directions here. I don't mind the Eagles -3 here in this situation here. It feels like this is a perfect spot for them here. Obviously, they would have loved to have it as a true home game here, but I don't mind the Eagles in this first round as well. Just based on kind of what the line movement is set at. Like you said, they started at 2.5 and now it's up to 3. So clearly they're getting some action. But again, Eagles, this is another game that I'm not touching.
Yeah, I'm probably not touching this one either. Of course, I love what Jake said because any kind of fade about the Eagles and any as a Giants fan, it's music to my ears, guys. But this game reminds me a little bit. I'll just say a little cautionary tale here to Eagles bettors. This game just reminds me a little bit of the Packers and Lions last Thanksgiving. The Lions were riding high heading into that game. Everyone thinking Lions at home are going to, obliterate the Packers, who were like on the rise, but not really there yet, right? And everyone kind of forgetting that Jordan Love and that Green Bay offense can really move the ball. It was the opposite, right? They dominated the Lions in that game. I just don't know if Philly is going to travel well in this spot. Call it intuitive feeling. Like, I don't have a lot of like statistics to back that up. But right now we're hearing about the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts situation, how there's some discord there. That, guys, that is not a shocker to me at all. I've been saying that for like 2-3 years, just because they're polar opposites, right? You got Nick Sirianni, who, when they beat the Cowboys, is going, "How about them Eagles?" You know, like on the way into the tunnel, like grow up, bro. You know,
Yeah.
and Jalen Hurts is on the sideline, like, you know, Socrates, or like, you know, he's like stoic. He's just, so they're opposites. They're kind of working through some kinks there a little bit. And I will take Matt LaFleur and his game plan and his scheme in week 1 to kind of surprise that Eagles defense, who, Jake, to your point, I'm not sure how much better they're going to get. The edge rushers for the Philadelphia Eagles might be the worst that they've had in about a decade heading into this game. Still got some good, you know, strength in that interior defensive line, but I'm not sure if they're going to get to Jordan Love very often in this game, and that could be a problem. We saw how good Jordan Love could be last season. I love that too, boys, because I don't mean a point, but I was saying Jordan Love is going to come into last season and he's going to be pretty damn good. Now you see he's one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league. I think he keeps it going. I think this is at least a very close game, but I would want to side with the Packers here, maybe even consider the money line heading into week 1. Sets up a really good opportunity too for Philly going back home against the Falcons to clobber them in week 2. Like, that'd be a great survivor pick if the Eagles do lose in week 1. But I, you know, low key too, love that Green Bay has Xavier McKinney on their team now, adding to their secondary back there. So the Green Bay Packers only got better. Josh Jacobs, etc. We've heard it all at this point about who they've added. But I think this is going to be a very close game, kind of a coin flip, and would not be surprised if Green Bay pulled it out. All right, from those two awesome games, let's go to the Carolina Panthers visiting the New Orleans Saints. And I'm just going to get my spiel off of this one really quickly because it isn't too nuanced. The Panthers, according to a lot of the smarter guys in the industry that I follow, people are high on the Panthers. They're thinking Dave Canales and this team is going to improve this year. They're going to surprise some teams, maybe not in the win-loss category, right? Like, they only had 2 wins last year, right? Like, we have to acknowledge that this was the worst team in the NFL last season. At the same time, Dave Canales, he comes in, he's a quarterback guru, right, from Seattle, working with Geno Smith and Russell Wilson. They got some new weapons on offense. We'll see how they do defensively. They have a young buck defensive coordinator over there as well, so I'm not too sure about that. I think their defense clearly needs work. Still got guys like J.C. Horn. Brian Burns is gone now, but these New Orleans Saints guys taking 4 points, and this line has moved down, which is not surprising with all the fodder that I've heard about the Panthers heading in this one. But the Saints are just a team that you can't trust. Like, I was thinking about taking the Saints as my week 1 survivor play. I've already talked myself off of that. I mean, although this is probably the one game this season where you might be able to trust the Saints. I mean, they're at home against last season's worst team, and I still don't trust the Saints because they are just the most average, clunky, don't believe in this offense, going to need to see more, even without Carmichael as their offensive coordinator. I need to see more from the Saints offense to believe in it. Could have a very good defense, but in short, I think this is going to be a close game. Lean Panthers for me. Patrick, I'm going to go right back to you. Panthers and Saints. What do you got in this one? Sorry, I just want to say Saints are 4. I'm not sure if I said that. Saints 4-point favorites.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans opening as a 5.5 point favorite, excuse me, and now it's down to 4. Certainly makes a little bit nervous. I did have the Saints circled at 5.5, and now kind of as it creeps towards that 4 number, like you said, there's a lot of money coming in on the Panthers here. Regardless of that, I'm still taking the Saints here at 4. I just don't trust this Carolina Panthers defense whatsoever here. I get people think Bryce Young, obviously with the new coach, is going to improve here, but I just don't see it. I do like New Orleans defense a lot. I think they have improved, and I think they will continue to improve throughout the season here. While I'm not exactly Derek Carr's #1 fan by any means, I would say, I do think they have enough weapons on offense to handle the Panthers. I think, like you said, it's going to be close to that 4, maybe 5-point win. I'm going to go 5-point win here for the Panthers, or excuse me, the Saints. I think it is close, but I do like the Saints here at 4.
I don't know, Patrick. 40 and slip there. You said Panthers. You said
I know.
Panthers.
Listen. You can replay this clip too once the when the Panthers upset them. But yeah, the Saints -4 is going to be on my card this week.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, Derek Carr is a definition of the quarterback that's like he's the most frustrating type of quarterback, right? Because he'll
Yep.
make a throw to, Chris Olave. He'll look like, wow, there might be something in the system. The next play he makes the most boneheaded throw I've ever seen. So, I mean, he's very frustrating. Then again, to your point, Patrick, that Carolina defense, like we've heard a lot about the offense, right? They have a guy in
Yep.
Dave Canales there now who can improve things. Their defense, though, not a lot to believe in besides J.C. Horn. Over to you, Jake. What do you think about this Panthers-Saints matchup?
Well, I think that there's certainly some reasons to be intrigued about the Falcon or about the Panthers. And this is a team that I could not stop betting on last year, and I never won. It was the worst. But I think that bringing back Evero, the defensive coordinator, Dave Canales coming in and deciding to keep him is very interesting because he's a very well-respected defensive coordinator in the league. They were, I mean, some metrics they were pretty solid last year. They were decent against the run, but in coverage they were pretty good, limiting explosive plays. They just couldn't get any pressure up front. Don't know how that's going to improve when you take out Brian Burns. So that's probably the biggest question here. But they're not terrible in the back end. You obviously got Derek Brown, and you have some continuity on defense. You actually brought in some of Evero's players or old players. You bring in Josie Jewell, the linebacker. Jordan Fuller, the safety, has some history with Evero. So I think there's some continuity here. And definitely lanes where they can improve. I'm addicted to betting this team. I took them 4.5. So I just, it's mostly just a fake on the Saints. Derek Carr is a favorite, is just never interested in it. Can see why there's reasons to be optimistic about the Saints team, but they were last year, they were the same optimism, and by week 6, you're like, what the hell are we doing here? So I think I'm getting the more intriguing team with a defense that I think has a lot of continuity, which is really important. I'm getting a quarterback in year 2 with some new weapons, the most expensive offensive line in the history of football now. Will they be good? We'll see, but they certainly got paid. So we'll see if they're any good. But I think the biggest question with this Panthers team is the pass rush. They were just so bad last year, and then you take away Brian Burns. So I think that there should be a lot of success for sure. The Saints on offense, it's a good spot for Derek Carr. But I'll take the dog. Just I'm getting over a key number of 3 and 4. I got 4.5. So I think there's lanes to be excited about Carolina because of all the new pass catchers. The continuity on defense and Bryce Young. So we'll see. But I took the chance and took the points.
Yeah, really good points by both of you guys. I mean, I could definitely see the Saints winning this game and the Panthers still covering. I could see it being a close game, but I do think that you look at all 4 units on the field, the Saints defense is clearly the one that not only probably has the most talent, but we've already seen the potential. We've already seen it on the field, how good they can be. Now, some of those guys get a little bit older, right? In linebacking crew, Cameron Jordan. I mean, they're not spring chickens anymore. So, but a lot of young players on that Saints defense too, guys that need to step up. That's probably the best unit on the field, but is that enough for the Saints to cover this line? I'm not sure. I will say one last thing about this game. Watch out for Taysom Hill. I know he's a really tough guy to put in your fantasy lineups because, what the hell is he? Is he a quarterback? Is he a tight end, a running back? Apparently from camp, the new offensive coordinator, which, name escapes me at this time, whatever, he is going to use Taysom Hill a lot. And he's going to use him as a fullback, running back, tight end, quarterback. So you just might want to, look out for some surprise Taysom Hill plays in this game right after the very start. That's a tough guy to prepare for. That's for sure. Let's move on.
They hired Kubiak, Clint Kubiak, I believe.
Clint Kubiak, yes. The Kubiak system. Yeah, but he's, a young guy, right? They need that kind of creativity. Carmichael was there for, I believe, over a decade or close to it for the Saints. So his time was done, right? They needed a change. So, we'll see if that actually lifts off immediately week 1. A lot to just kind of watch and see in that game. Another one that's very intriguing, Tennessee and Chicago. We get some 4s out there right now for Chicago. They're 4 to 4.5 point favorites at home. I've talked about this game a lot already, so I'm going to be very short. You can read my analysis of this game on Twitter. I'm heavy on the Titans. It's actually my biggest play of week 1, and that is because even though there's a lot of unknown about both of these teams, and even though Caleb Williams probably is the real deal, I mean, the kid, he knows what to say. Seems like he has a lot of poise. I call bullshit on the whole. I don't feel pressure though. Like, stop. Yes, you do. You feel pressure. Okay. I think he's just trying to kind of like avoid that, question or situation, which tells me that he might feel the pressure of that question. But Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be a very good player. But it's week 1. It's a rookie quarterback. They have a tremendous amount of talent on that offense, and the defense really came up last season, towards the end of the season, one of the best defenses in the NFL. But the Tennessee Titans have some good changes too. I like that they have Calvin Ridley. I like that they have Tyler Boyd. I like Will Levis and his attitude in general. He's confident. The players respond to him. They still got some guys on defense too. And the Chicago Bears have a very sketchy offensive line situation. Like, we can the age-old, as the age-old saying goes, guys, like, yeah, I feel great about my team this year, except I'm a little worried about the offensive line. Like, that's not something you want to hear. That is what we're hearing for Chicago, and yet they're still 4.5-point favorites at home. A lot of hype on this team, but I'm all over the Tennessee Titans. Let me throw it back to you, Jake. Titans, Bears, week 1. What do you got in this one?
You know where we're going here, Chris. We've talked about this game. The Titans are my best bet. I mean, I'll spoil it, and I'll talk about it again later. I don't see how you can play the Bears here. I've got close to 3 units on this Titans game here. Maybe that's a little too much exposure for week 1, but I'm trusting my summer read on both these teams, which is an early fade on the Bears and an early heavy buy on the Titans. This is not just a fade of Caleb Williams in game 1. It's a play on the Titans, who I think are the most undervalued team in the league. I'll be talking about this team week after week. Then they bring in J.C. Latham, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard, L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, all new additions. There's a serious commitment to Brian Callahan with all these moves being made. And, this is not a make this bet depending on how you feel about Will Levis type of play. This is a bet because history indicates that he's going to improve. The Titans are taking advantage of a quarterback who is on a rookie contract and pushing forward during this rebuild, which I don't think will last that long. All the history indicates that Will Levis will be the better quarterback in this matchup, and this game is priced like he is not. The Bears are really only solid in the back end. I think this will be a close, low-scoring game. The Titans are supposed to play faster now. They were the 30th fastest team in the league last year. I think they'll certainly speed it up a ton. The offense will naturally improve. Watch out for this Titans team, man. They got dudes on all 3 levels of the defense. You got Jeffrey Simmons. You obviously bring in 2 corners with Awuzie and, of course, L'Jarius Sneed. I like Callahan a lot. He's been around football for his whole life. He hired his dad, Bill Callahan, who's known as like the best offensive line coach ever. Watch out for this Titans team, man. I think they're going to surprise some folks in that division. Everyone's talking about the Texans and the Colts, and I like the Colts for sure. But watch out for the Titans in that division.
Titans coming out feisty, according to Farley Betts and Jake Sirkus. All right, Patrick. It might be a lot of animosity against you if you go the other way. I'm just kidding. Patrick, Bears, Titans. What do you got?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with more what you guys said too. I love the Titans plus 4.5 this week too. And Jake mentioned it too. I'm also on the under at 45 here. I do see this as a low scoring game. That Titans defense addressed every need that it had in the offseason with cornerback and even linebacker too. New defensive coordinator coming in. Yeah, I'm buying the Titans early this week too. I just don't trust Caleb Williams. I get he's got weapons on pretty much all aspects of his offense here. The Bears have a pretty good defense as well. So, again, I see this as a low-scoring game, but give me the points with the Titans in week 1.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm a suspicious sports bettor, so I don't love that we're all bullish on the Tennessee Titans minus 4.5. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, right, plus 4.5. But that being said, guys, I love the agreement. Hopefully, the Titans and their feistiness don't let us down here. And I must say, I mentioned this is a 4-unit play for me. So, a little plug for me here. Usually, well, not usually, for the rest of the season, all my 3 to 5 unit plays are only reserved for top play customers. Not going to give them out in this show, not going to give them out anywhere else. So you can DM me at Farley Bets if you're interested in those top plays. But this is a rare free top play for week 1 for me. That is my best bet as well. So Jake and I, that's our best bet. Patrick, is that your best bet, or do you got another one waiting for us?
It is not.
Oh,
I got another one waiting.
The intrigue builds. Okay, I like it, Patrick. Okay, let's move on to the A few other teams in the AFC South, the Houston Texans visit the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Texans are 2.5-point favorites coming off a lot of hype, guys, right? CJ Stroud, he was all over our television screens in the offseason on HBO show with Micah Parsons. He's saying all the right things. I'll just start by saying this. I want to kind of fade CJ Stroud as a sports bettor because of the hype and because of the perception and because of all the attention that's on the Houston Texans. And it should be, right? I mean, CJ Stroud showed us so much last year. They're even more talented this year. I even love the addition of a professional running back like Joe Mixon, just knows how to get the first down, those 3rd and 1 situations, for example, right? This is a well-organized team that's gotten even better in the offseason. And as much as I want to fade CJ Stroud a little bit or look for opportunities to maybe look at the over perception on this team, I really don't see any reason to do it. I mean, the kid is ice cold when he's off the field. He's ice cold on the field. He's only looked fluid in the preseason. Now, I will say these Indianapolis Colts are very interesting, right? Because I like Shane Steichen. Like, he's a good coach, comes from Philly, won a Super Bowl with their offense over there. Like, I believe that he's going to change this team. Week 1, I'm not so sure. Anthony Richardson, there's a coach in the league that said the whole league is scared of Anthony Richardson, and I think the league should be. I mean, this guy, I think, has the potential to be the most entertaining player in the NFL. Whether that results in wins or not, we're not sure. He was pretty entertaining in a few games before he got injured last season, and they still got some guys on defense. A lot of continuity for the Colts, and now here comes Anthony Richardson back into the mix. Colts, too, a team, I think 5 out of their last 7 games they won last year, and that's with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, right? So they did show improvement last year as well. I would still lean Houston here. I think we're getting a bargain, but it's a sneaky play if you want to consider the Colts here, guys, because I do think that they could have something up their sleeve, and Shane Steichen is a good coach. I've already said a lot. I'm going to send it back to Patrick. Texans, Colts, week 1. What do you got here, Patrick?
Yeah, this is interesting too, because it opened at 2.5 here, and then I even saw kind of a week or so ago it was down to 1 in favor of the Texans here. So I think everyone's kind of pretty high on them, but obviously the market's kind of bounced back to that original opening line of 2.5. I could be an outlier here, but I'm not buying the hype on the Colts this season by any means here. Not an official play, but I do like the Texans 2.5 here. I trust CJ Stroud. I know what he's about. I watched them all last season here. They improved their offense again. They have more weapons than you could say arguably any other team in the NFL, especially given their wide receiving core here. So I like the Texans minus 2.5 here. But again, this is another game like we talked about with Baltimore, Kansas City, Green Bay, Philly, that it's not going to be on the card. But if I did have to give out a lean here, I do like the Texans minus 2.5. I think it's a bargain.
Yeah, I'm in Circa Millions again this year, and actually I wasn't in last year, but I'm in again this year. And I'm sure that Houston minus 2.5, if that's what the line comes out to be at Circa, is going to be one of the more selected games this weekend. Jake, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance that the Colts win this game? What do you got on this one?
It's funny that these games that we're talking about first. I mean, I'm betting on all these AFC South games. This show's gonna be pretty boring for me at the second half because I'm gonna have nothing to talk about. But this is another bet I have. I bought the Colts at 2.5 earlier in the summer. I've been super high on this team. I think it's a year 2 quarterback with continuity on offense. The NFL history says that they can pop. So I'm betting on the upside. I love what Shane Steichen did last year. The only problem here is Chris Ballard has been super stubborn all summer. They really didn't do much in free agency to try to get maybe another pass catcher or certainly some help in the secondary, because that's where this team is very, very vulnerable. They're relying on some young guys to step up, and Ballard, I guess, put his job on the line. He's like, you can fire me if these young guys don't play well or something. So it's super weird vibes with the secondary. A lot of young players, but they're elite up front on both sides. You get Anthony Richardson, you bring back his running ability. This Texans defense has the most turnover out of anybody in the league. They lose Jonathan Grenard, Hankins, Malik Collins, Blake Cashman, Tier Tart, Denzel Perryman. They lost 5 of their 7 starters in their front seven in their playoff game against Baltimore. Five of the seven that started for them are gone. They do bring in Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry, and Aziz Al-Shahir. So on paper, they're improved, but I'm not buying in week one. I mean, this is a team that I have 14-1 to win the AFC. I bought them in April, as I said, on laying the points before they brought in Stephon Diggs. Or maybe it was March. It was right before they brought in Diggs. I bought them at 14-1 in the market. Again, they have a year two quarterback, but they're a little early because they already popped. But this is a team that can win the AFC. But I will fade them in this huge revenge spot that we rarely ever see in week one, where the Colts have had this game circled since May when the schedule came out. The Texans were the team that eliminated them. The Colts were a drop pass away from making the playoffs last year, and we never would have heard all this Texans hype all offseason. So yeah, I'm in on this Colts team. Certainly in on this week one spot, but I'm not fading the Texans all year. I just this is a great spot for Colts week one.
Yeah, but I totally feel that. And I must say, it qualifies as a great teaser leg, too, for our newer NFL bettors out there. Key numbers in the NFL, which just means the most games end on these margins, are 3 and 6. 7 is in there, too. But now, if you tease up the Colts 6 points, you get an 8.5 on a home team here who's going to be extremely motivated to at least keep this game close and play really well against one of the most hyped teams entering the NFL season. So I do think the Colts are a great teaser leg. Again, I would advise not teasing a lot week one because, again, the variance, the volatility of what we don't know is about to happen can really kill a teaser that feels like it's an awesome teaser, right? But I mean, 2.5 up to 8.5 is about as perfect as it gets for a home dog in a highly motivational spot. So I might look that way for the Colts. Probably just going to stay off of this one. I would want to take Houston here if anything under the 3, but I'm probably just going to stay away.
Would you want to take the over, Jake? If you said obviously Indy's secondary is a little bit weaker, Texans defense is slightly kind of declined despite what they may have on paper. 48 is obviously a pretty high total here, but it seems pretty interesting given both these offenses.
It's one of the higher totals.
I think on paper the over's the play. I normally don't bother with totals. I'm such a boring sports bettor. I stick to my sides, and eventually I'll do like a Wong teaser here and there, but I mean nothing crazy. But yeah, on paper, I mean I think it's the over. I think both these defenses will try to find their footing early on, and it was so weird because in their matchup in January, the de facto playoff matchup, everyone was all week talking about the CJ Stroud versus Gus Bradley's cover 3. And Bradley's back, and I think Bradley's done a great job at this defense, and they'll continue to improve. But CJ Stroud still torched cover 3 last year. It's not like Gus Bradley's going to stop running cover 3. So I mean, I think there's advantages everywhere for both these offenses. Certainly an advantage for the Colts offensive line against the new Texans front 7 because there's a lot of turnover there. So I think JT will have a big game. I think Richardson will use his legs a lot. The only doubt I would have is the Colts try to slow it down and keep Stroud off the field, which could result in 13-6 at halftime and kind of torch that bet. But other than that, I mean, I think the Colts will play at a high pace here, same with Texans. So I could see over here.
Yeah, good opportunity to also mention to our audience, do not tease total. Yes. Don't do it. Just don't do it. No, I don't have all the I can't present all the quantifiable evidence as to why you shouldn't, right? There are better guys out there who can do that. Don't do it. Don't tease totals. It's not worth it. It doesn't have the right value. But to your guys' point too in this one, Stephon Diggs, right, who we haven't really mentioned, and a lot of people are kind of selling his stock, right? I mean, Patrick, coming from Buffalo, you're a Bills fan. Stephon Diggs kind of, he had some good games. He had some games where it's kind of questionable, like how good is this kid at this point? I think Stephon Diggs in a dome is gonna thrive, and that combination of Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell, that's pretty lethal. I mean, it's a pretty lethal trio there. So I don't think CJ Stroud is gonna have any issue. This one's inside of a dome too. We could see a track meet. I'm glad you brought that up, Patrick. All right, let's move on to Cardinals and Bills. Cue the production. Are they barking? Okay, I don't have the noise, the audio effect right now, but this is going to be my dog of the week, boys. This is a big one because the Cardinals are 6-point underdogs heading up to Buffalo. My God, Patrick, I just said you're a Bills fan. Now I'm going against your Bills. I'm really sorry, but I think that I see a lot of sell signs on the Bills this year. Lost a few guys on defense. Now Matt Milano is gone as well. Obviously, people love to hail Josh Allen for good reason, right? I mean, the guy is still the strongest arm in the NFL, maybe one of the strongest arms ever in the NFL. He can just make things happen. He can will his team to a win. But these Arizona Cardinals are sneaky to me, guys. I think Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a very lethal combination right from the very beginning. Kyler Murray now is in year 2 off of his injury. They say his speed, his dynamic juking ability is back. Marvin Harrison Jr., one of those rookie wide receivers who we just kind of know is going to immediately be a pro and be able to step in and do the job. If Josh Allen and Keon Coleman don't get off to a fast start, I hate their group on offense, like who he has around him if Keon Coleman is not doing something. And, Jonathan, I always get Shane Steichen mixed up with Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon, a defensive coach, a good coach. He had that team improving a little bit at the end of last year. They were kind of feisty in that one. I think Arizona Cardinals ruin a ton of survivor picks this week and straight up beat the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills coming off a season where I think that was their opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. Didn't happen. Sean McDermott might be losing this team a little bit. That is my dog of the week. I know it's a bold take, guys. Patrick, I'm going to go back to you because these are your Bills. Defaming your team here a little bit, but Bills Cardinals, what do you got on this one? Not as a fan, but it must be hard for you to kind of eliminate a little bit of that, right? They've been frustrating.
Yeah, by all means. And two, last year, like you said, it felt like this was their chance, right? Like they have everything kind of set up for them. And then the injury bug just killed that defense. You saw kind of in the playoffs too, especially that last game versus Kansas City, the middle linebacker position, kind of everything just went down the drain here. This is going to be an interesting Bills team, I have a feeling, because the wide receiver core is obviously a bunch of turnover there. We bring in Curtis Samuel, Valdez-Scantling, Keon Coleman, the rookie as well. And then you still have Shakir, Kincaid, and Knox. The Bills traditionally, I think last year and even the year before too, Diggs and Davis were kind of the deep ball threats, right? Like Josh Allen can stretch the field out there. I think this is going to be a revamped kind of offensive scheme for them where they're really looking to kind of get underneath and limit Josh in terms of having to, let's say, play hero ball when it's 3rd and 10 and have to take a hit to try to pick up a first down here. So I think it's going to be more of kind of a plot their way down the field type of team, especially on offense. The defense, like you said, is going to be an issue here. Secondary is not great. Cornerbacks aren't great. Middle linebacker losing Milano hurts especially. And the Cardinals, again, I think the Cardinals are going to exploit this defense. It's scary to say. I mean, we've seen it happen in the past. Last time these teams met, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's going to have a monster game for them as well. Total at 48 here. I love the over. I'm going with the over in this game here too. I think the Cardinals defense, while maybe slightly improved, I think the Bills are still going to be able to put up kind of 28 on them. I can see this being a pretty high scoring game. So I do like the Bills and the Cardinals over here. I'm sticking away from the sides. I do think the Bills win this game, but Chris, I think you're right. I think they do not cover this game by any means.
All right. Yeah. And, me saying that they're going to win straight up, maybe a lot of people just take the spread there. I think that's a good call as well. Let's go over to Jake. Cardinals, Bills. What do you got on this one, buddy?
I originally was going to take the Bills in Survivor. Not going to do that anymore. I kind of have leaned off them. Well, I mean, I was like, I'm talking like a month ago because this card's kind of weird for Survivor because, I mean, if you don't take the Bengals, who are you going to take? Because then you're, relying on Seattle. You're relying on Josh Allen, who is almost certainly going to lose this game like outright if I pick him in Survivor Week 1. I mean, my relationship with Josh Allen over the years. But I don't think this Cardinals defense has improved at all. I think they're still by far the worst in the league. I mean, I think Washington's second to last, and there's kind of reasons to be maybe a little optimistic about them. I think this Cardinals defense is putrid, and it's going to affect their ability to be kind of that spoiler team this year. And I think they're going to be more so likely to what they were last year, which is just a tough out. But I mean, other than the win against the Eagles, which came out of nowhere last week of the year, they really didn't play spoiler that much, and they beat the Cowboys in week 2. But then they just weren't a sound football team. They Kyler Murray came back, and I had my doubts about Kyler. I don't think he's had there's been so much inconsistency with him. We haven't really seen him put it together for like 12 weeks in a row. It's been like 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there. So this is a complete stay away for me. I'm down on the Bills this year. I'm not buying the Cardinals hype. Could also see an over here. I mean, the Bills will score points against this defense, but in the long run, I'll be looking to fade the Bills. Von Miller is just hobbling now. They lose Terrell Dotson and Matt Milano now, so they're two best linebackers from last year. Todd Dotson came out of nowhere, was huge for them when Milano was hurt. He goes to Seattle, then Milano gets hurt again. This just such bad vibe with this Bills team, I think. But I'm not buying the Cardinals either. I hate both these teams. I'll stay away.
I like it. Okay, let's move on to the Patriots and the Bengals, guys. This is the biggest spread of the week. Probably the most common survivor pick is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals at home. Obviously, Joe Burrow entering the season off of an injury, looks healthy. Only positive reporting on him at camp and in practice. And you got the Patriots, who certainly seem like a team in experimental mode, in flux, right? I mean, they sold Matthew Judon before the season, like a team that maybe you don't want to buy, but I don't know if it's the aura of the Patriots or what. But I mean, 9 points week one. A defense that probably could be pretty damn good still. I'm not too sure if I want to jump on the Bengals at this kind of spread just yet. Let's go right back to you, Jake. Patriots, Bengals, week one in Cincinnati. What do you got here?
I mean, obviously the Bengals are my team. I hope they don't lose week one to the Patriots. be a tough experience if they do. They almost certainly, like I was talking about the Bills. If I take the Bengals in Survivor, they will lose week one. I'm telling you. So I have that much power. I'm just kidding. But I need like a tout service to give out Bengals -8.5, because if this line gets to 10, I'll buy on the Patriots. If it doesn't, I have no interest. I will give out just the grossest double-digit dogs on this show throughout the season. I'm already telling you. Thankfully, there's not any week one, or else people would stop listening because they'll just hear me ramble about double-digit underdogs. But I'll think about buying it at 10. I don't think it'll get there, so I'm not really worried. But this is a complete stay away. Like over the last couple of years, there has been struggles with the Bengals in week one, the first couple of weeks. But now Burrow is like fully healthy. I think Jamar's going to play. The defense, I think, will take a huge step back forward with now a solid safety group, so they can run a lot of the stuff that Lou Anarumo wants to run on defense. But yeah, this is a line in no man's land. I think it'll settle 8.5, maybe hit 9, but that doesn't really matter. If it gets to 10, I might buy it. But I have no interest in betting this Patriots team right now. Maybe as the year goes on, and may I get some dirt under his shoes. I could see me betting this Patriots team quite a few, but not week one.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo announcing that he's going to start Jacoby Brissett too, to me is like a little bit of like a stabilizer choice, right? Like Jacoby Brissett is going to be like a sturdy quarterback for them. He's probably going to keep them in games. Like it's not going to be completely embarrassing. But is Jacoby Brissett gonna will the Patriots with their lack of weapons? I mean, you look at that wide receiver room, guys. It is regrettable. It doesn't look great, right? I mean, they're young. Who knows? Maybe they're more dynamic than we think. But probably not a lot going on with that offense there. So Jacoby Brissett going to make some plays, but interesting that they're not starting Drake May from the very beginning. Like why not just take a shot on the kid and see what happens? Then again, a lot of these kids get thrown right in there, right? And then, I mean, we are savages as far as our judgment on these rookie quarterbacks go. Like let some of these kids develop a little bit, right? So maybe that's what they want for Drake May. But I hear you, Jake. These Cincinnati Bengals early in these seasons, the last 2 years, they have struggled, right? And we've seen Joe Burrow and the offense kind of sputter out there. I don't think that's going to happen this time. But again, 9 points is a big spread. Patrick, over to you. Bengals, Patriots. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm not touching this game either here. And like you said, it seems like Gerard Mayo is just kind of like easing himself into the beginning of his coaching career here with Jacoby Brissett, just playing the safe option here. This New England team is going to be very, very interesting as we progress throughout the season. Like Jake said, they could be a team where if they do get if they are an underdog by 10 or more come week 3 or 4, and you kind of see some signs of life from them, it could be a popular spot to jump on that bandwagon. And then again, the Bengals too, slow starts here. Burrow's obviously kind of coming back from injury. All signs out of training camp are that he's fine and kind of headed in the right direction here. But 8.5 is obviously a pretty large spread in week one. And you look at the total only at 40. So they're expecting the Patriots to really, really struggle in this game. And the majority of the offense comes from the Bengals. I don't love this game by any means here. This is a wait and see. I think the Bengals, again, kind of like the Patriots, could be a team that you start to target weeks 3 and 4 once you kind of fully know who they are. But in week one, this is a complete stay away. I'm not going near this game.
Yeah, I mean, oddsmakers looking at maybe a 24-16 type of game, 25-16. Like that's a weird number. So it's definitely a strange spread. But if you think about it that way, I do find myself saying, how are the Patriots in Cincinnati against what I think is going to be a better defense? I mean, they did lose DJ Reader. I mean, that's a pretty big loss. But the Cincinnati Bengals at home, Lou Anarumo has been a constant there now for seasons on end, right? Like many thought he would be a head coach by now. Cincinnati's only benefiting from him still being there. How are the Patriots going to put up over 14 points? Assuming that the Bengals get over 20 points in this one. So, from that angle, I could see the Bengals easily covering, but from what they've done in the past, guys, probably a stay away from me at this point as well. All right, let's go for the Battle of Florida here, at least at the very beginning of this season. We're leaving out Tampa Bay, but Jacksonville visits Miami. Miami, the exact opposite of the Bengals. The last 2 years, 3-0 starts for these Miami Dolphins. They start off very hot in South Florida. Of course, it is hot in South Florida, but Jacksonville is used to that. Jacksonville, maybe some reasons to be excited about them this season. Before I say anything, I'll just pass it on to you guys. Patrick, Jaguars at Dolphins. Dolphins 3-point favorites at home. Are you there?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this Miami Dolphins defense looks this year. I think that's – yeah. Sorry, you got me. Yeah, I think my internet's a little bit slow this morning. Yeah, the Miami Dolphins defense could be interesting to see how they look. Obviously, the loss of Christian Wilkins is going to really hurt them. I'm kind of high on the Jaguars this year. I think the Jaguars come out week one and stun the Dolphins here. So I do like the Jaguars in week one. It's going to be a close one for sure, but it's almost tempting for the dog of the week. No.
Oh
no, it's not. I got one more. I got one more dog of the week. Yeah, I'm saving it to the end of the show here, holding those listeners hostage. But yeah, no, I'm going to take Jacksonville +3 this week one here. I do think they improved from last year's kind of train wreck. So I'm going to buy high on the year, buy low on the Jaguars week one.
The thing is about the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, right? Arguably the most anticipated number one draft pick. It's up there with the all time.
Andrew Luck.
Right? Absolutely. Andrew Luck status. So at any time, you got to figure Trevor Lawrence might just hit that new gear and fluid with their offense. They do have a new guy with it. Brian Robinson. What's these names are?
Brian Thomas, LSU.
Brian Thomas. Yeah, that's why you're here, Jake Sirkus. They have a great rookie receiver who looks like he can step in right away and make a contribution to that team. Miami in the beginning of this season at home, tough to beat. Tua is something like 15-2 straight up at home as the Miami starter. So this is not an easy team to beat at home. So that is, Patrick, the fact that you didn't call that your dog of the week is, you must have something really juicy packed for us later in the show. But I like what you said, because there are some bias signs here on Jacksonville. New defensive coach. They needed that. That's for sure. And obviously Trevor Lawrence, you just expect a professional program to kind of pick it up, right? They do have a coach who's been to the Super Bowl before and has won it, right? So this is a team who I could see a turnaround. I'm just not buying it just yet. Jake Sirkus, over to you. Jaguars and Dolphins.
Lean Jags there's like 1.5 out there. I tried to find it and realized I'm not in a legal state anymore, so I can't. But I like this Jags team, as Patrick said, very, very high on them this year. I'm also higher on the Dolphins than I was last year. I wanted to fade the Dolphins all year last year. Didn't buy the defense. Now I kind of buy the defense, but Jalen Phillips and Chubb are out. Pay attention to the injury report today. Chubb is on pup. Phillips isn't. So Phillips, like, I think should be on the report today. So it's so exciting. We get injury reports back. It's so awesome. But just make sure Phillips will be out. If Phillips is out, this Dolphins defense has up front has nobody. They lose Wilkins, Chubb, and Phillips. I mean, those are the three best players on defense, depending how you feel on Jalen Ramsey at age 28 or 29. But those three guys are out. I mean, two of them, obviously, they lose Wilkins to the Raiders. Chubb's out. Pay attention to the Phillips injury report. I think in this matchup is you look at the Jags up front, and they have so much speed up there. I mean, you got Walker, you got Josh Allen, you got to bring in Eric Armstead, Roy Robertson, Harris. They're going to take advantage of the right side of the Dolphins line, which is a weakness. I think Ryan Nielsen, the Jags defensive coordinator, should give Miami some fits, and obviously Miami's dealing with a new defensive coordinator as well in Vic Fangio. I like 3.5. I'll be convinced on a 3 by game time once I'm for sure that Phillips isn't playing in this game. But right now it's a wait and see till the end of the week unless a 3.5 pops up again. Which I mean I could have had it 2 weeks ago and I didn't do it, so we'll see.
All right, I love this. We got some Jaguars support here on the show, which honestly I didn't expect. I mean, I don't know what the hell to think of the Jaguars half the time, but a big part of that for me is Doug Peterson an above average coach? Obviously won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but is he that kind of coach that can make transformative change on a team? Because coaches matter in the NFL, right? And we saw Trevor Lawrence basically went through his first season with Urban Meyer that not only was like a fake season because Urban Meyer didn't know what the hell he was doing, but it also might have kind of had him regress, right? Like in his skill set and in his career somewhat. Maybe just needed a little time to get back to it. Very good points about the Jaguars and should be very interesting. I'm probably just staying off of that one. And let us move on to, and I must mention, I'm getting a little bit of like freezing here and there, maybe a little bit of like internet challenge here as we go live on Twitter on a Tuesday morning as the NFL marketplace and the audiences are roaring all over the world about the NFL season starting up. So hopefully everything continues to go smoothly here. We'll just maybe talk a little slower, or at least I will in my introductions. And again, we're here with you every Tuesday on the NFL Roundtable, rotating guests. You're here today with Farley Betts at Gator Betting and Patrick and at Jake Sirkus here talking NFL Week 1. All right, let's move on to the Giants and the Vikings. Giants are 1-point underdogs. LOL. My New York Giants at home against the Minnesota Vikings with Sam Darnold at quarterback. The most like questionable, like, is he good? Is he not good? Is he ever going to succeed? And a lot of transitions there in Minnesota. They are the favorites at Giants Stadium. So for me, as a Giants fan, first of all, I found myself saying a few weeks ago, you should consider the New York Giants in your survivor plays in Week 1. I have backed off of that. Call me preseason scared, but when I saw Daniel Jones throw that interception in the end zone against the Texans, I'm like, Daniel Jones, I like the beard, bro, but like, you're probably not going to change. Like in high pressure situations, you're probably just going to get rattled. Brian Flores is coming into year 2 with the Minnesota Vikings as their defensive coordinator. He's probably pissed off after what Tua said to him. Maybe that Minnesota defense is better than we think as well. And I just don't trust the Giants, of course. So I'm not going to have a bet on this game. The Giants are my team, and I'm not expecting much this year at all. I just do want to mention Malik Neighbors, guys. I do think he's the real deal. I hope that he gets what he deserves with this New York Giants offense. Probably not. But I do think that Malik Neighbors is the real deal, and they have a pretty good receiving core there. So I could see some points in this game, but there's a lot up in the air about this one. There's a lot of unknowns for me, even as a Giants fan. I'll go back over to Patrick for this one. Giants, Vikings, Vikings short road favorites here, Patrick. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, everyone's kind of like obviously down on the Vikings this year because Sam Darnold's starting, but you look across the field and you have Daniel Jones there. It's not like he's going up against Patrick Mahomes in this matchup, So I don't know. I think they're more similar than they are than not here. 1.5-point favorites for the Vikings on the road Week 1. It's tough. It's really tough to buy the Vikings in this spot here. This is a complete stay away game for me by any means. This will be a game that's maybe on the 4 screen that I'll kind of periodically check in on, but it's certainly not going to get the big one up front. So, yeah, I have nothing in this game by any means. again, I kind of want to watch both these teams week 1 and just see what happens. So I'm staying away from this one.
Yeah, I got a feeling even if you're in northern Jersey or even if you're in like, the middle of Minnesota, I'm not sure if this game is on the big screen. Like if you're at a sports bar, it's probably not this one. They're probably going to put that on a small TV on the side as, Daniel Jones is like fumbling the ball and the score is like 6-3 in the fourth quarter. Okay,
Right above the
over to you,
bathrooms.
Jake Sirkus. What do you got, Minnesota Vikings Giants?
Malik Neighbors 20-1 to win Rookie of the Year, which is no longer available because I took it in June. I bought the hype, man. Well, I played it before the hype, and then the hype came, and I'm like, please, like, no more hype, because then. But yeah, he's so good. He's gonna catch everything. Like if Daniel Jones just needs to be serviceable, and he's gonna rack up the stats. This guy will catch literally every ball that's thrown to him. We saw it at LSU. All the go balls down the sideline. That was their whole offense. It was find Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors down the sideline and Jaden Daniels run. I mean, that's what their offense was a year ago for LSU, and they were the highest scoring team in the country. So as far as this game goes, nothing. I like the Vikings like season long. I really wish McCarthy was playing. If he was, I still wouldn't play the Vikings in this game. But I really wish we can see McCarthy with this offense, with Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips, a great offensive staff, great running backs, great receivers, great tight ends, great offensive line. This is a good unit that I think Darnold will be able to find success in once he kind of settles in. The defense not so much. Same thing with the Giants. This team, man. Like, I didn't watch Hard Knocks, but some people did, and they're like kind of like more excited about the Giants. I kind of think, like, if anything, some people told me that Hard Knocks showed how incompetent that front office is. I mean, I thought the Daniel Jones extension was, even in that moment, the worst move. I actually said in that moment it was going to be the worst move until the Dolphins signed Tua, and we saw that this offseason. So it's these teams, man. They make terrible decisions when it comes to extending the quarterbacks. That's all for me. I don't have anything on this game.
All of us a little disappointed with the presentation of the NFL does a great week 1. Like there's going to be a lot of parity in week 1, in my opinion. Probably a ton of Survivor participants are going to lose week 1. I just think
they better not. They're all going to take the Bengals. They better not lose.
Well, I don't know about the Bengals. I think you're probably safe with the Bengals, but a lot of people are probably trying to avoid the Bengals because they have so many spots later this season that you can take them. And I think that's going to probably amount to a lot of disastrous results. But in a week 1 where you have a lot of parity and a lot of entertaining games, this ain't one of them. So I am happy to move on. I'm happy to just discount my Giants. But before I do that, we are an hour into this show. But it doesn't matter because that's what the NFL Roundtable does. We have rotating guests, rotating personalities, and we have Matt Rutledge waiting on the outside. Matt, sorry to wake you up there, buddy, and Cape May. Didn't mean to stir your slumber there. I know you're a hard worker over there. Really glad to see you on the show, Matt. Welcome to the NFL Roundtable. We're about 8 games in, Matt, but welcome at this point.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm actually in Atlantic City right now.
Oh, you're in Atlantic. Oh, well, no wonder why you're waking up late. There you go. Yeah. No, well, I say late. It's Jake Sirkus. It's 7 a.m. over there. But if you don't know Matt, you should know. Follow him at ER Surgery on X on Twitter. He's been on Book It with Trent before. Excellent, sharp, better. Can they still get your plays over there at Dub Club, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, look for ER Surgery, Matt Rutledge over there at Dub Club as well. Gives out packages for a very fair price, and the guy wins a lot. Welcome, Matt, to the show, and let's press on, because speaking about Kirk Cousins and the previous version of the Minnesota Vikings, we got Kirk Cousins now starting for the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm hearing a lot of steam, a lot of strong opinions on the Atlanta Falcons entering the season, and it's for good reason, right? Bijan Robinson again, a great wide receiving core. Well, I guess you could say it's a pretty good one. Drake London is a guy who's produced a lot in the past. I'm not sure after Drake London that it's all that good, but you still have Kyle Pitts there. You got some guys on defense now for sure. Now they have Matt Judon. So, the perception of the Atlanta Falcons seems to be buy signs and arrows up, whereas everybody, I might do the first curse word on the NFL Roundtable. Everybody fucking loves to hate on the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Oh, this is Mike Tomlin's first losing season incoming. Russell Wilson at quarterback. Boo. I don't know, guys. Listen, Kirk Cousins didn't play a lick in the preseason, right? He's coming into this fresh, brand new, and there's a lot of change for these Atlanta Falcons. Not a lot of change for the Steelers. Well, a quarterback, sure, but best player on the field for me is T.J. Watt. Mike Tomlin knows what the hell he's doing as a professional football coach. I think this game could be a little closer than people expect. I probably won't play it, but I'm very fascinated to see how it plays out. Jake Sirkus, I'm going to go back to you. Steelers, Falcons, week 1. What do you say?
I'll say another curse word. Fuck this Falcons team, man. Like, dude, they're the easiest fade early in the season I can think of. I mean, it's like I spent all summer trying to find these teams, and the Falcons just like shot out to me like a cannon. And guess who's coming to town? Rah Mike Tomlin for week 1. I mean, it could not be, this spot could not be more perfect. Tomlin's 28-18-1 since 2018 as a dog. The Steelers defense is the best unit by far in this game. The matchup to look out for is, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and those guys against the Falcons' stout offensive line. That's the only thing that the Falcons really show me that they can compete in this game. I've talked extensively on this Falcons team, how I want to fade them early in the year. They have not done well as a favorite in recent years. I'll take Tomlin outright. For sure, if you can still get a 3. I know there were some that popped out earlier in the last week. Not sure if there's yes, consensus 3. So take this before it comes down, because I think it will come down. I don't see any smart Falcons money coming in. Dupree and Campbell are gone for Atlanta. They bring in Judon, who missed the last 13 games of the year. He's getting up there in age. There's no juice on this front 7. This is actually a good matchup for Russell Wilson in this first game with the Steelers. I don't like Russ. I don't like the offensive staff that they brought in. But I like Mike Tomlin, and I like that defense. And I hate this Falcons team, man. They need to start 0-2. If once they start 0-2, then we can the love on them can kind of go out the gutter. But yeah, week 1, this is an easy play for Pittsburgh for me.
Yeah, I believe they're at Philly in week 2, if I am correct. I know they're facing the Eagles, but are they at Philly? Yeah, they are. They're at Philly on Monday Night Football in week 2. So I could see this team starting 0-2 as well. I don't know if I'm going to be as bullish and take the Steelers money line in this one, but I love your point, Jake, about the Falcons defense, especially Matthew Judon. It's a great addition, right? At one point, one of the better edge rushers in the NFL, but he's coming off of a year of injury. He's also not a spring chicken anymore. And is that going to just completely change the front 7 and the worries of that front 7 on the Atlanta Falcons? I'm not sure. Pretty comfy start, it looks like, for Russell Wilson and that Steelers offense. I don't think they're going to have too much issue, although, of course, they'll probably bite themselves in the ass a few times during the game because it's Russell Wilson, right? I mean, that's just kind of what he does with at this stage of his career. Patrick, let's go to you. Falcons, Steelers at Atlanta. What do you got here?
Yeah, I kind of echo Jake here. I don't love the Falcons at all here. And then on the opposite side of the ball, you got that deadly Russell Wilson, Arthur Smith combination here. I like the under in this one. It's a low total of 42 here, but I just don't see these teams putting up a ton of points, especially in week 1. I think Russ struggles. I think Kirk struggles here. That Pittsburgh defense should be able to hold the Falcons, who do, I would say, slightly have a better offense than Pittsburgh here. So I like the under at 42. That's the only play in this game. I'm not touching either side.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. I mean, I think when we just think about Atlanta, Dome, you think there's going to be points for some reason, but it's been a long time, since
Matt Ryan flashbacks.
Matt Ryan, exactly.
Yeah.
That's I think that's a grand assumption there. 42 actually seems pretty freaking high for me. The week 1 with these two teams, especially Kirk Cousins coming in completely dry. Okay, Matt Rutledge, your first take. Steelers, Falcons, week 1. What do you got, my man? Oh, I got you on mute. Let me unmute you. Or you got to unmute yourself, actually. You go ahead.
Patrick, you hit the hammer on the nail there. I'm on the under 42 as well. Falcons know this Arthur Smith offense. I think it is going to be a slow start for the Steelers in the first couple games of the season. I don't have a lean in the side, but I'm going to be on the under 42 as well.
I like it. So just to cover everybody's bets for the show so far, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So Matt and Patrick both on the under in that game. Patrick, you're also on the Saints in week 1, and you're on Arizona Buffalo over. Is that correct?
Yep, that's so correct. And the Titans 4.5.
and the Titans at 4.5. Okay. Jake, I got you on Indy plus 2.5. Tennessee is your best bet of the week, plus 4.5. I got you on Carolina in week 1 as well, plus 4. And then are you officially on Pitt?
Yes, officially on Pitt.
Okay, so that's an official on Pitt. For me, I got Arizona as my underdog, barking dog of the week. By the way, need a barking dog from this group still. Tennessee is my best bet of the week at plus 4.5, and I'm also on KC -3 at even money. I believe you can still get that at Bookmaker and maybe at Bet Online. I think there's a few books where it's even money out there. KC -3. Okay, let's trudge on here. Please let the audience know about your best bets and your underdog of the week if you haven't so far. But I guess we'll get to that point. Patrick has he's locked and loaded for this final slate, this late slate here of games in NFL Week 1. Let's go to Denver and Seattle. I know some really sharp guys who are high on Seattle heading into the season. Mike McDonald obviously comes to this team with a lot of hype, great defensive guru and defensive mind. I think they needed a culture change up there in Seattle. And we know going up to Seattle week 1 with that 12th man, that's probably one of the harder spots in the NFL. But here comes Bo Nix in the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton has his guy. Bo Nix looked pretty good, guys, in the preseason. And I am buying that hype a little bit. I think that Bo Nix is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Just are the Broncos ready to take that leap? 6-point underdogs going up to Seattle is probably, for them to straight up win that game is something that I'm seeing less and less possible. But now that it's getting up to 6, I might start to gain some interest in the Broncos at this point. If you got Seattle like -4 or 4.5 or wherever it was, probably a pretty good middle here if you want to take the Broncos on the other side. But Seattle, I think the better overall roster in this spot. Obviously, really tough spot to play as the home team. So I'm going to lean Broncos just because of the number. But Seattle probably a great survivor play, and I think they do win this game straight up. Maybe a good money line parlay leg too. Matt Rutledge, I'm going to go back to you for this pick. Broncos, Seattle up in the Pacific. Seattle -6 at week 1. What do you got?
Well, I don't like the Seahawks at all this season.
Love it.
I think it's a rebuild year for them. I think you have a new head coach, a new OC, new defensive coordinator. I would I'd take the 6 with the Broncos here as well. I like what I saw from Bo Nix. I think this defense improved a lot in the offseason than what it was last year, because last year it was horrendous. I'm not going to bet this game, but I don't lean the Seahawks at all. So
all right, I love it. The Broncos love, Bo Nix love. Listen, Sean Payton, I don't know if Sean Payton comes off as well to like the modern generation of athletes, right? He's like a Bill Parcells guy. So he probably gets on his team's nerves a little bit, but pretty good coach, guys. Super Bowl winning coach, knows what he's doing with an offense, especially when he has his guy. Let's go up to Patrick. Saints, Broncos, week 1. Seattle, pretty big favorite here. One of the bigger favorites, actually, in week 1. What do you got here, Patrick?
Yeah, did people not watch Bo Nix in college? I think it was his season, whether it was at Auburn or Oregon, of this was his year. Everyone's high on him, and then constantly he would just disappoint. He has looked good in the preseason. I will give him that, but I am not a Bo Nix believer by any means. Maybe he takes the next step in season 2 or 3, but not this year by any means. That Denver defense too is atrocious. I don't believe in them at all. I like the 6 here. Obviously, I would have liked to get it at 5.5 here. It is going to be a lean for me. It's not going to be an official play on the card, but I do like the Seahawks -6 this week. I think Geno is a bounce back year after last year, and they just have more weapons overall on offense.
I like this. We got really diverse opinions on this game, so this is going to be a really interesting game to watch. And I think it all depends on just how good the Broncos actually come out and how good Bo Nix actually is. To your point, Patrick. Accurate quarterback, right? Started 5 years? I think it's a record how many games he started over there at Oregon. But it's not like it led to national titles, right? Or it took a lot of success in those bigger high pressure games. So to be determined with Bo Nix. Jake Sirkus, you're our last opinion. But it's up to you. Or are we taking Broncos or Seahawks here? You're the last one.
I'm probably going to play the Seahawks in Survivor. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Someone on this show had a Bo Nix 28-1 Heisman ticket last year that lost in the last week of the season, so that kind of was shitty. But I like Bo Nix on the road has been the longest trend in college football of like auto fade when he's on the road, and I don't think a couple of good games last year at Oregon against not great opponents. I don't think that really changes that trend going into the NFL. Bo Nix on the road going up north. Kind of interesting because he gets drafted to Denver and then comes back up to the Pacific Northwest where he had such a good season with Oregon last year. So there'll be tons of storylines. Obviously Bo Nix isn't playing against the Steelers offense, but the only 2 games Bo Nix lost, the other teams was coached by Ryan Grubb, who's the new Seahawks offensive coordinator, who was the Washington OC. So I love the storylines in this game. You have a Super Bowl rematch. Teams look obviously way different than they did in the early 2010s or mid 2010s. But nothing on me here, or nothing for me here. I think that the Seahawks, if they're well coached, they're a sleeper team. I'm not a big fan of the roster. I like the additions Denver made on defense, but again, they have not been the same since they lost Evero, their DC, who's now with Carolina in year 2. Took such a huge step back last year. A pass defense that was actually good in 2022, just was not it last year after losing their DC. So we'll see if Vance Joseph adjusts. I don't think he will because I don't think there's a whole lot of talent. But this is a big pass for me. I'm going to pray that I can get through week 1 in Survivor because I have some plans mapped out for later in the season. But week 1, I just don't know where to go. I don't want to take the Bengals, but I'll just pray the Seahawks win this game against a rookie quarterback on the road.
All right, I like it. A lot of diverse opinions on this game. And just a reminder, everybody, we're an hour and 20 into this podcast. We got 5 games to go. I told you all it's going to be a longer form podcast because of all the different opinions and personalities we have in this show. That's what it's going to be every single week. Thank you all for hanging with us. I see we have over 300 people watching right now live on Twitter. If you guys are handing out questions, I really appreciate that. We'll probably get to that in the comments after the show. It's going to be kind of tough to add questions onto an already pretty long show here, but 5 games left. And I'm going to be really quick with this one, guys, because the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm probably just going to stay away from this one. Just like too much unknown in this game. Love Jim Harbaugh. I love that he's back in the NFL. I think that's going to be a good team down the road. But Justin Herbert, basically has almost no options at wide receiver. That's a really shallow wide receiver depth chart. And I think their defense is going to be better because of Jim. But week 1, 3-point favorites at home. I'm not ready to jump on that just yet, although I do think the Vegas Raiders are going to be pretty shitty this season. Gardner Minshew at quarterback, that's fine, but he's not a franchise quarterback. And this is a team in flux. It looks like Devontae Adams is going to be just another season of being pretty pissed off about his move going over there. With like how dumb of a move was that at this point, right? Like, you want to go play with Derek Carr? Have fun, bro. But the Raiders aren't winning anything anytime soon. So I don't know what you were doing over there, Devontae. I'm staying off this game, boys. Going right back up to you, Jake Sirkus. Maybe you have a stronger play on this one. Raiders and Chargers.
I mean, Chargers as a favorite is normally an auto fade. I hate Jim Harbaugh more than anyone out there. I hate this game. Nothing for me here. It'll be a big wait and see game to see what Herbert does on this new offense with another new regime for Justin Herbert.
Why do you hate Jim? Is it because he sleeps in a van at the San Diego beach? What's going on there? You don't like that about Jim?
I didn't like Jim, and then the whole Michigan stuff came out. I mean, we don't need to get into the Jim stuff, but
yeah.
But we'll see how he does back in the NFL. I mean, it's been a while. The NFL has kind of completely changed since the last time he was there. I like what Antonio Pierce is cooking in Vegas. I just don't think they have the necessary players yet. But I lean Vegas here. I want no part of this Chargers team as a favorite. I mean, they don't have a home field advantage. This will be all Raiders fans at SoFi, as it always is. When the Niners or the Giants or anybody comes to town and get to play the Rams or the Chargers, it's an instant home field advantage. It's like this every year when the Raiders do it. It comes week 1, they'll be excited. They'll be optimistic about the Aiden O'Connor, Gardner Minshew quarterback battle. I believe they named Minshew quarterback. I believe he's going to start here.
And listen, he looks like he's embracing the role. He looks very Vegas. He's got the stash going. He's got the bandana going when he's out. I mean, he looks like he's ready to go for Vegas. Whether that's going to turn into wins or not, we'll see. But I agree. The defense should be kind of feisty, right? Max Crosby I mean, he's up there for possible defensive player of the year this season. And he has a little more help on that defensive line now. So the defense could still cause a stir, that's for sure. And that's why, I mean, against this Chargers team, unproven, can't do it. Over to you, Patrick. Raiders, Chargers, week 1.
Yeah, like again, kind of echoing what Jake said. I don't love this game at all here. I think the Raiders do have a fairly competent defense, though. So I do like the under in this matchup, despite it being at 40.5 here. I think Jim Harbaugh is really going to kind of take that grounded pound offensive approach here. The Chargers wide receivers, that core, while they did bring in a few rookies, isn't great. So I do like the under here. I just don't see this being a high flying showdown, especially like you said, the Raiders quarterback room right now is Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew battling it out. So not exactly ideal, you'd say, if this is your NFL franchise. But yeah, I guess if I had to make a pick in this game here, I'd definitely lean on the under 40.5.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That is strong lean for me as well. Matt Rutledge, Chargers, Raiders, last call. Here we go.
I hate this game as well. I mean, the total already moved 2 points to the under in SoFi. It's disgusting. I have nothing on it as well. So,
yeah, what's the capacity going to be at SoFi, guys? Is it going to be 40, 50? I mean, hopefully they get a pretty good crowd. Vegas fans usually travel pretty well, at least at the start of the season. So hopefully they get a packed capacity there. All right, let's move on to that stinky game. This is a really interesting game. Actually, these next 4 games are really interesting. So we have to try to not be too tangential here as we wrap up into an hour and a half already into this show, which I love, guys. This is long form. We're talking ball. It's week 1 NFL. Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns 2 to 2.5 point favorites at home. Deshaun Watson with a lot to prove this year. You know, the Browns still kind of loaded on both sides of the ball. On their fronts, very good. And a lot of sell signs in the Cowboys. Like, right, you look at their win total, mega juice to the under this season. Teams not buying the Cowboys or any kind of hype for them anymore coming into the season. I'm going to go right back up to Patrick to start us off here. Cowboys, Browns. Browns are the favorite. To the casual NFL fan, they're like, why are the Cowboys underdogs against the Browns? But I think it does make sense. Patrick, what do you think about this week 1 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, we saw how much Dallas struggled on the road last season, right? I think that's kind of one of the major storylines heading in here to see kind of if they can get over that or break that curse per se. Again, I think this is going to be another kind of tight game, especially just given the spread at 2.5 here. 41.5 is the total. I'm going to stay away from either side in this one. If I did have to give a pick out in this matchup, I'm going to take the Cowboys plus 2.5 here. If I did have to go there, I think they kind of right the ship this year, especially on the road, starting off strong. But I also do like the under at 41.5. Both these defenses are pretty good. Not super high on Deshaun Watson. And yeah, I'm not really a Dak lover either per se. So I think this is a pretty tight matchup. I think we maybe see a 17-14 game here with the last second field goal to win it. So yeah, I'm staying away from this one. But again, if I had to give a pick out, it'd be the under here at 41.5.
Count me with you on that under in this game. I love that, Patrick. I think that both defenses are going to take over, right? You have a Dallas Cowboys offensive line that obviously lost a few key parts, including Tyron Smith, which is a huge guy to replace. I mean, not only figuratively, in every single way, Tyron Smith was a key part of that team for a long time. And the Browns offensive line, still one of the best in the NFL. They are going up against one of the better front sevens in the NFL in the Dallas Cowboys, though. So I think this is a very defensive game. Start slow, and we get something similar to what you said, like a 2017, maybe 20-16 type of program. I think we lost Matt Rutledge there, who's getting wild in Atlantic City. Hopefully he comes back to us. But for now, let's go back up to Jake. Sirkus, Cowboys, Browns, week 1. What do you got?
I missed the good Browns number. This was a game I had circled since the summer, and I wish I took them. I believe they opened as a dog, like a short dog or a short favorite in this game, and kind of steamed back up towards a 3. I don't think we'll get there. Should settle at 2.5, 2. I think this is the game where we're going to see the most week 1 overreactions, because I can just picture it. If Watson just comes out there, throws 3 touchdowns, 280 yards, and we'll see the media heads on Monday morning talking about the Cowboys and if they're cooked, and if McCarthy should be fired, and if they should trade Dak Prescott before he becomes a free agent. And I could see the same for Kevin Stefanski's squad. If they lay a dud week 1, if Watson doesn't look good, I could see some talk about Kevin Stefanski potentially being on the hot seat. I think that would be criminal. But this Browns team has year after year come short of expectations with this defense, with this roster. I think that this could be the year where, if they get quarterback right, which is would be a big step for them, they could certainly be pretty scary if they stay healthy. I like the Browns in this game. I'm selling early on the Cowboys. They lost. I mentioned this when I was on laying the points with you, Chris. Selling their defense because they lost all of their depth from last year. Their star players are still there, but they lost all their depth up front. Didn't really bring anybody in. Their only signing was Ezekiel Elliott in the offseason. That was it. Their offensive line is now depleted. A couple of starters are gone. So these Cowboys front sevens and lines that we've come accustomed to seeing recently, I don't think they're going to be as scary and as intimidating as they've been in years past. So praying for my guy Dak Prescott. Had him for MVP last year. Came up just short. I thought he should have won it. But I'm a big Dak guy, but he could be in some trouble this year and potentially leave Dallas entirely in 8 months' time.
Yeah, like my buddy Ryan Reynolds said, who hopefully will be on this podcast this season as well. You see his name right there, Ryan Reynolds, NFL. Give him a follow, one of the best in the industry. The Dallas Cowboys are one CD Lamb injury away from being a dumpster fire offense. And I really believe that, right? So I think there's going to be some kinks in the armor in week 1, but they do have CD Lamb in week 1 for this iteration, and it still is Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Like, on the one hand, Jake, I could see Deshaun Watson going off in this game, right? Stephon Gilmore is gone. Trayvon Diggs will let some balls fly right over him because he's a little too aggressive from time to time. This could be a big game for Deshaun Watson, but I could also see the completely other side where the Dallas Cowboys still come out the more buttoned up program and they end up winning this game overall just because of the talent that they have in the field. And, Mike McCarthy, as much flack as he gets, God, is he easy to hate, guys. The guy can build a pretty good offensive game plan, right? Like he does know what he's doing for the most part until they face the 49ers in the playoffs. Okay, let's get to the next game here. We have 3 games left on the slate, boys. Washington at Tampa Bay. This is a very sneaky one for me. I am very close to taking Washington here against the spread at plus 3.5. I just happen to think that Jaden Daniels, from everything we hear, is going to be the real deal there in Washington. Excuse me, a really dynamic quarterback, a mobile quarterback. They have talent on that offensive side too, with scary Terry McLaurin. Now they got Austin Eckler. They got some guys, and I think Dan Quinn, some very smart people who I used to work for are very high on Dan Quinn as a coach, and I tend to believe people who know more about NFL coaching and front staffs than I do. So I think this Washington Commanders team has some buy signs on them. I think the Bucs got not lucky because Baker Mayfield fits that program very well, but I think they overperformed certainly last season. And now they're catching 3 and 3.5 at some books as a favorite at home against Washington. This is a field goal game to me. So if I can get Washington at plus 3.5, I'm probably going to take it. Very strong lean for me at this point. Let me go back up to Jake Sirkus, Washington and Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay week 1.
I'll be short here. I mean, if Jaden Daniels learns how to slide, he could be really good in the NFL. Don't buy this Tampa team at all. I think the defense will take a step back, losing Shaq Barrett. Their pressure rate on defense has shrunk since their Super Bowl run. I mean, Shaq Barrett was a big part of that. It took a big step back last year with Shaq Barrett. Now he's gone. I don't really see how they get any pressure on any teams this year with no depth behind him. So, a patchwork offensive line for Washington could be, the benefit of a bad Tampa front seven. So like the matchup for Washington, would take the points there, but I will not be betting on a rookie quarterback on the road in week 1. I have too much exposure elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good rule to stick to in most cases too. Guys, I'm doing that thing where in the background I'm just moving my mouse on the 9 to 5. Just so they think I'm doing really steady work right now. I'm not. I'm on a podcast with my buddies talking NFL. Over to you, Patrick. Commanders, Bucks, week 1.
Yeah, I don't really like either of these defenses, if we're being honest here. At 3, I do like Tampa Bay in this spot here, just because you said I don't trust rookie quarterbacks week 1. But I don't mind the over at 42 here. I think people are just a little bit sleeping on Jaden Daniels, a little matchup of the Heismans here between Baker and him. So I like the over at 42 in this game. Like you said, Tampa Bay's defense wasn't fantastic last year. Neither was Washington's. And I don't think they've really done enough to kind of warrant a buy sign on either of them, given the offseason acquisitions. So I like the 42 or the over 42 in this game.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Yes. I think this could be a very entertaining game, right?
Yep.
And you have a Tampa Bay defense that's kind of aging as well. I like that, Patrick. I haven't heard that take actually before on the over in this game, but it did look a little low to me as well. I'm actually very interested in watching this game, and not at all for the Tampa Bay Bucks. I want to see how the Commanders are actually going to turn out in this one. Okay, let's move on to the 2 Sunday night and Monday night football games. According to my note sheet here, I still have the dog of the week awaiting for both of you in this one, right? Because Sirkus, you got the Titans as your best bet, but it's not your straight up money line dog, right?
I forgot about that. Yes, the Titans are my outright dog. I'll be placing them
Okay.
Well, I mean, I normally do a money line dog parlay every week, just a 2-way. And I have another dog that I'll give out that I'll probably pair him with.
Okay, love that. Love that. Okay, so Patrick, for sure, we got your dog of the week coming up, I believe, Patrick, and we are 2 games away from finishing this slate. We're an hour and 36 in. Thank you, everybody, for staying with me. Again, follow me at Farley Bets. Follow Patrick at Gator Betting and Jake at Jake Sirkus. All right, Rams and Lions, 24-23 wild card finish last year in the playoffs. Very good game between the Lions and the Rams. Lions obviously edge it out. Matthew Stafford used to play there. We know all the storylines at this point, and you got to figure a revenge game for the Rams. But man, at Detroit, against a Detroit team that I think got better, right? I mean, DJ Reader on that defensive line with Aiden Hutchinson could be a really big deal. That guy can fill some gaps and take up some attention. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is a defensive player of the year waiting to happen. Eventually, maybe not this season, but I could see him having more success. Detroit's defense, on the back end, we'll see. But this team is poised to be at the top of the NFC again this year, in my opinion. But I am not sleeping on the Rams this year. I didn't sleep on them last year like many did. But the Rams, Sean McVay, professional program. They got some great wide receivers there, arguably 2 of the best in the NFL as a combination between Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford just has to stay healthy, guys, and they got some guys like Blake Corum and some things that Sean McVay can unveil on this one. And I believe in that defense. Young guys, really talented cornerbacks. I know that Aaron Donald is gone, but again, Aaron Donald's still kind of commiserating with the team. Like, that's what happens, right? Like, when you have a legacy defense and a legacy defensive line, it doesn't just go away because one player leaves necessarily. Although obviously Aaron Donald is a huge piece that they're missing. I kind of like the Rams to be feisty in this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to take them just yet. Patrick, I'm going to go back to you. Rams, Lions, week 1. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, it's gonna be my underdog of the week. I'm taking the Rams in this one here. The hype on Detroit, while I think is warranted, I think the Rams come out and shock them in week 1 here. We saw with the last year's playoff matchup. This is a game Stafford's always going to get up for. Cooper Kupp fully healthy now. I like this Rams offense, and like you said, I think people are also sleeping on this Rams defense here as well. Everyone's buying in on Detroit this season. Well, we may reevaluate them at week 7 and kind of say, yeah, they got off to a rough start. Now they're kind of trying to find something here. Give me the Rams in week 1.
Wow. Yeah. Week 1, Sean McVay going into Detroit. I love that, Patrick. And I think it's a 1-point game, right? It's a 1-point game. The playoffs could easily won that game. And then we have an entirely different perception probably of the Rams, of the Lions heading into this season too, right? Because they were there in the NFC Championship winning by a few touchdowns before they ended up losing that game. I hated that, by the way. I really wanted the Lions to be in the Super Bowl. But like maybe the spread is, everything is a little different if that doesn't happen and the Rams win that game last season. Jake, over to you. Rams, Lions.
I will defer here. I hated this Lions team preseason last year. I wanted to fade them. I actually had Green Bay in the futures market, so they just popped a little too late for anything really to hit there. But I'm gonna take a pretty big position on the Lions this year. I think that they really fix all their weaknesses. I think they're great up front. They have the best 1-2 punch on the interior defensive line with DJ Reader and Alim McNeil. They got Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, bring in some interesting players in the secondary. I had the Rams plus 3.5 in the playoff game last year, had them on the money line, didn't quite get there, but they thankfully covered. I think there's some serious resistance in the market that this line is not going to go down to 3. And I think there's a reason for that. I think that, there'd be a lot of smart money coming in on the Lions at -3. That's what I would do if it gets there. I might not lay 3.5, just a big number on a primetime game with an offense like the Rams, but this Rams defense, I don't see it at all. I think they lost their best player in Ernest Jones with the preseason trade. AD's not there anymore. The secondary's super young. I don't see it at all with their defense. I think that they're more likely to be like a Cardinals type team from last year. If let's just say Kyler was healthy all year, they'll be a very exciting offense. A lot of high scoring games. They'll play pretty slow and score points, so they'll be really efficient. But I think they're going to give up some gash plays this year. I think the Lions at home week 1, a lot of the expectations will throw the ball all over the yard for this one. And I am in on Jared Goff MVP futures this year. And I'll give you one reason why. I know I'm being long and I'm sorry, but I'm taking a huge position on this Lions team. Jared Goff plays every single game this year except for 3 in a dome. They have 4 road games that are indoors this year. And the Jared Goff trend is the splits between cold pumpkin Jared Goff and indoors Matt Ryan, Jared Goff. He is a complete gunslinger when he's indoors. Their only 3 games outside are in San Francisco, and then there are 2 division games against the Vikings and the Packers. So one of them is against not the Vikings, the Bears and the Packers. So I am in on Jared Goff at 21-1 to win MVP. I'd play Lions number 1 seed, like the schedule a lot. This offense is going to hum this year, and the defense is much improved.
Hey, I love the support. I love the support for Jared Goff. I mean, is it just me, or there's a little bit of Ryan Gosling in Jared Goff, right? It's like the poor man's Ryan Gosling a little bit. But hey, he comes over there to the Lions, disposed of from the Rams, and he's been taking care of business ever since, right? And the best offensive line in the NFL, I think most people would say, the stability that they have there, how consistent they are every single week. Playing in a dome, great point, Jake. I mean, we could see a lot of success for Jared Goff in that offense this year just because of the dome. But I also love that we have differing opinions on this show, which is why we're here. Again, we have one more game to go. The NFL Roundtable is going to be rotating guests all season. You're going to get covered in all your bases and all your different angles for every single game all NFL season. And let's get down to the final game. We get to see Aaron Rodgers back with the New York Jets. Hopefully he doesn't get fucking injured in the first half again. I mean, you're getting up there, Aaron, maybe chill out on the ayahuasca retreats and do a little bit more work in the gym. But still, you got the Jets who, in my opinion, most talented defense in the NFL. You could argue every unit is the best unit in the NFL defensively. Obviously, a lot of talent still on offense. I think Breece Hall, one of these names, guys. I think he could be the best running back in the NFL. Explosive, through the roof, still succeeded last year somewhat, even with that terrible quarterback play and terrible offense. I'm excited to see the Jets in this game, and I'm kind of selling the 49ers, right? Super Bowl loser. We know how that usually goes against the spread. Week 1, it usually does not go well. It's something like 30 or 40% they cover in week 1 after a Super Bowl loss. And the San Francisco 49ers just looked a little all over the place in the preseason, which I don't take a lot of stock in the preseason, but Brock Purdy's out there a lot. They just signed Brandon Ayuk, but it's like things are just all over the place, guys, a little bit for me. So if I'm going to look at any side, I'm going to look at the Jets here. For me, it's just a lean at this point as I really limit my exposure in the NFL, but I could not look at the 49ers. And I'm wondering if I'm going to regret that, right? Because we saw what happened last year, week 1, 49ers, they stomped the Steelers. The Steelers were a very sexy week 1 play. I could see that happening in this game too. But Jets are a very formidable team. I've said a lot. Let's go back to Jake Sirkus. Jets 49ers, Monday Night Football. Wrap us up here.
Yeah, I bought the Jets at 4.5, assuming that one of Ayuk or Trent Williams would not play in this game, and they both are, but they're rusty. Obviously terrible news the other day with Ricky Pearsall. Hope he is all good. Don't expect him to play week 1, I would assume. So the depth is hurtful. Like even Ayuk and Trent Williams are going to play, but they haven't practiced. They haven't played in any preseason games. They haven't taken any reps. So I expect those guys to be certainly rusty. That's my angle in this one. McCaffrey, really good news out of Niners camp today. Because McCaffrey is fine, but again, he hasn't practiced in a while. So there's just a lot of weird vibes with this Niners team early. They lost a lot on defense. And I am on the Jets 4.5 here. I bought it. It's not a huge play, but think they'll be much improved. The offensive line will be much better this year. So I have the Jets at 4.5.
Like it. That's the only side I would look at. So my Mac is about to die. I told you guys at the start of the show that I'm on my wife's computer. I left my laptop at my father-in-law's. I didn't take a charger up here. She told me there were hours on this Mac if it's fully loaded. Apparently not. Patrick, give us your quick take. Sorry about that. Jets 49ers, Monday Night Football. Let's go.
Yeah, no worries. I got no play in this game. I do in the under here. Just like you said, too. I think both offenses start slow. I do like the Jets kind of as the season progresses here, but both have a pretty solid defensive units on either side. So quick take here. I lean the under in this one, 42.5.
Oh, yeah, I like that, too. I think it's going to be very, very hard for the 49ers to come out and score immediately on that Jets defense. And you could say the same in the other direction with Aaron Rodgers not doing anything in the preseason at all. Guys, I think my computer's about to die. I want to thank the audience today. We've had almost 400 viewers throughout this entire show live on Twitter. This will be available via podcast as well. I hope you enjoyed, again, just the variety of opinions on this show. You're going to get that every single week for the NFL Roundtable. I hope these guys join us every single week, but I know we have some really great guests incoming on future shows as well to join us. Until next time, everybody, NFL Week 1 is here. He is Jake Sirkus. He is Patrick Gates. Follow him at Gator Betting and follow Jake Sirkus at Jake Sirkus. And really quickly, as we end the show, my computer dies. Jake is on the Tennessee Titans as his dog and best player of the week. Patrick, his dog of the week is the Rams money line, and I am big on the Titans as well. Until next time, everybody, look for us next week on Tuesday, NFL Roundtable. We are out of here.